You're listening to the Co-Creator Network because you do create your own reality.
This is Maxine Taylor, host of Move Into the Magic, and I am so thrilled to have as my special guest one more week, David Wilcock, whose new book, The Source Field Investigations, is, I can't even put it into words. It is a consummate work. It is fantastic, and it just came out. So get yourself a copy of it. Go to his website, divinecosmos.com. There is so much information on his site. It'll keep you busy for hours. So without further ado, David, please pick up where you left off.
All right. So I'm going to assume now that people have heard the previous weeks so that we don't have to treading over the same ground.
Yeah, let's move forward.
The source field is the idea that space, the flow of time, the physical matter that makes the universe, biological life, are all emanations from an intelligent quantum substrate that we don't get to see directly. We only get to see its crystals. So space would be a crystal from the source field. Time would be a crystallization of the movement of the source field. Physical matter is a crystallization from the source field. It's like if you ever made rock candy. You get sugar and you put it in water until you can't dissolve any more sugar, and it just looks like a solution, but then if you hang a string in there, what happens? All of a sudden you get these beautiful sugar crystals that grow on the string. You got rock candy.
Right.
The physical matter is like that. Physical matter is a vibrational crystal that comes out of the source field. The source field is basically fluid-like in the way that it flows, and that fluid, when vibrated, actually will show you geometric patterns. It's technically, the term would be pulsation, not vibration, but it's easier for people to hear the word vibration.
Yes, we're more used to it.
Yeah. So if you pulsate a sphere of fluid, you get these beautiful geometric patterns that form. And gravity, as it turns out, is the source field. The source field is gravitational energy, which we woefully misunderstand. In fact, I have a quote in the book of a scientist just recently who said, gravity appears to be a side effect of something a lot more important that's happening in quantum physics, and it may be the secret to understanding dark matter and dark energy. Isn't it crazy that scientists would call it dark energy?
Yes.
Here I'm calling it the source field. They call it dark energy.
No
It gives you
comment.
a window into the mentality, right?
I was just going to say, I said no comment, yeah, because I'll get myself in trouble.
So here we are in the year 2011 as we're doing this radio show. The 2012 prophecies are 1 year away.
Yes.
You're literally talking about 14 months, 15 months before December 21st, 2012.
Yes.
And the average person thinks it's all a load of bull. And it's not. And I was on the Mancow-Mueller show the other day. Very popular conservative radio guy. And he's, the Mayan calendar, whatever, you know. And I said, look, there's dozens of ancient cultures who have these mythologies that encoded secretly the information about a 25,000-year cycle in the Earth's axis.
Mm-hmm.
And that cycle ends in 2012. And we have good, solid intel that that's when it ends, based on what all the ancient people were calculating. So it's not just the Mayan calendar. It's also Western astrology, and you're an astrologer, so you know this.
Right, and so what did that guy say?
He was absolutely stunned. I mean, he expected that he was going to tear me up and humiliate me, which I guess is a lot of what he does with guests on his show. That's why they only give you 8 minutes. So you get humiliated, and then you get kicked out the door. And he's just going, oh, my God, you know.
Awesome.
And I've heard people who were at a gas station and then they hear some ordinary guy saying, my God, I just was listening to the radio. I heard this guy, David Wilcock, and I'm thinking about everything. I'm thinking about our future, and I'm thinking about what it means to be on Earth, and who am I really, and, you know, what are we doing here, and where is this all going, and is it really all doom and gloom? Should I really be afraid or not? And the answer is no. The fear is part of a collective initiation. If you look at what the Great Pyramid has inside of it, the Great Pyramid as I reveal in the book, it originally was covered with gleaming white limestone. It looked like a mirror-polished sculpture in the desert. I'll bet you that at one time it wasn't a desert, it was all trees and grass.
Right.
That's another discussion. It was a mirror-polished sculpture, and I have multiple quotes that all the way up through the mid-1300s, that's what it had on the surface. In the 1800s, Colonel Howard Vyse found some of the casing stones still intact. So the Great Pyramid, before the casing stones fell off in these massive earthquakes in the 1300s, it would have looked so foreign to anything that we could have built on Earth that there would have been absolutely no doubt of its origin, that it was not something built by mortal humans here on Earth. And the precision with which the pyramid has been constructed totally baffles any rational understanding. And I have so much documentation about that. It's over the top, incredible, how this could have ever been accomplished. And when we look inside the pyramid, what we find is the word pyramid, pyramid, literally translates, the etymology of the word is fire in the middle. Well, we don't see any fire inside the pyramid. There's nothing burning. What do they talk about? What is that? The fire is a vortex. It's an energy conduit that the pyramid creates by its shape. So one of the most important parts of the source field investigations is decloaking the mysteries of pyramid technology. And we look to the Russian scientists in modern times, spearheaded by Dr. Alexander Golod, who have been building pyramids in the former Soviet Union and its republics, and actually doing experiments inside of them, and finding out that by building a pyramid without using any metal, that's a very important point, because the metal screws it up, you get all these phenomenal effects. You get biological healing. You get the alleviation of any known disease, diabetes, cancer, leukemia, you name it. It wipes it out. And you get all kinds of strange phenomenon with the Earth. You get the ozone hole closing up. You get earthquakes reducing in their severity and intensity. You get severe weather that actually blows around this 300-mile wide vortex the pyramid makes as it sits there. Now, how in the heck is it doing that? What I say in the book is that weather is being caused by gravity. Gravity is pushing around cloud systems, and we're woefully misinformed about this. Gravity is flowing into the Earth to make the Earth exist. Gravity is the source field. The source field flows into an atom to make the atom, and gravity, therefore, is a fluid-like energy that's pushing its way into the Earth. We can't detect it directly. We only detect its effects. And we're getting pushed down as it goes in. But it's making every atom and molecule on Earth exist, and if you build a pyramid, you've now got a funnel shape, which actually creates a current in this invisible energy. It creates fire in the middle of the object, pyramid. So that's where your pyramid word comes from. And what it's doing, again, is it's harnessing a spiral. It makes a spiral. It's a machine that has no moving parts. Well, that spiral starts to ripple out like if you drop a stone in a pond and you see the ripples. It ripples out, and the spiral gets bigger and bigger. That spiral has enough of a gravitational push that it actually pushes away the severe weather systems. It closes up the ozone hole. And I propose in the book that much of earthquake and volcanic activity is being caused by rotating currents in the mantle. In other words, when you get a volcano, you get this hot lava that shoots up through the top of the mountain. That lava is all there is below the crust, and it's liquid. The liquid obviously is not going to sit still because the Earth is rotating, and the rotational forces of the Earth mean that the mantle has to be moving in convection currents. What I'm saying is that those convection currents are being driven and sculpted by gravity. And that's why, if you look at the work of Dr. Han-Xiao Lu from NASA and Dr. Athelstan Spilhaus from NOAA, they found that all of the greatest mountain ranges and undersea volcanic ridges on Earth are perfectly aligned with this geometric pattern that they found. And again, the geometry is the vibrational harmonics of this fluid-like energy flowing into the earth. That's where it's coming from. So I know this is a lot to take in, and I talk really fast, but we don't have a whole lot of time, and you can go back and listen to this again, and you'll get it if you take your time. And you listen to all three shows, because they're all part of a single thought here.
And if they get the book, it's in the book.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is just the Cliff Note version of just a few highlights. I mean, I really made this an encyclopedia. It's just loaded with stuff. But anyway, let me try to summarize this. What I'm saying is the pyramid actually is creating a stabilizing effect on the flowing currents in the mantle. The mantle currents are what's causing earthquakes. They're what's causing the plates on the earth to form. And if they get disrupted, then we have earthquakes and volcanoes. Now, think about the potato gun. When you got a potato gun, you have a pipe, and you punch it into the edge of a potato, and the potato gets lodged in the pipe, and then you have a plunger that you squeeze into the pipe, and as the air pressure builds up, eventually the potato goes pow, and it pops out. But what I'm actually saying here is that another analogy to bring it in with human health would be like an arterial blockage.
Yes.
You have, and I didn't use this in the book, but we're probably going to use this one in the movie. The arterial blockage would be like calcification and cholesterol in your blood vessels, which then restricts blood flow. And then you get pressure outside, and what can actually happen is you get a heart attack where the pressure is so great that it actually causes the tissue to die. Well, the equivalent would be in Earth would be more like the potato gun. Most people's vessels don't actually explode. Although, if you have a stroke, that it tends to be what it is. A stroke is actually the blood vessel exploding and rupturing because there's so much pressure that it just goes and just blasts open. Well, that's what's actually happening in the Earth. What I'm saying is that there are these spiraling currents of energy in the Earth, in the mantle, and in the atmosphere. And they're also in the oceans, but that seems to play less of a role than the atmosphere and the mantle. Human consciousness, when we exist in a state of stress and anger and worry and fear, we create interference. Our brain waves become chaotic. Those brain waves are not merely local to the brain, they're actually rippling out into the atmosphere and into the mantle, in the source field. And I've got extensive proof for that in the book. So when you think negative thoughts, when you allow yourself to go to a place of stress, anger, fear, depression, sorrow, misery, guess what? You're actively voting for planetary catastrophes and cataclysms. You're actually making the earth changes happen. Because what's happening is the static that you create interrupts these spiraling currents as they're trying to flow around and do their job. So when you interrupt those currents, you're creating the equivalent of the potato gun. You're creating a blockage where if you imagine now that you have, let's say you have a channel of water that's flowing like a river, but it's a circle. So you've got this circle of water and it's spinning around in a circle. Now imagine that it's under pressure and it's in a tube. And then if you stop up the flow of water in one spot, but then the rest of the circle is all still under pressure and it's still trying to flow, now you've got your potato gun effect. You've got that pressure buildup where the blockage is. Well, when the pressure finally gets too great, it's going to blast its way through the blockage. When it does that, it suddenly creates a hurricane or a tornado in the atmosphere, or under the surface of the crust, it's going to create a sudden earthquake. The plates go, or it's going to create a big volcanic eruption where the lava that's been under pressure actually blasts through the surface. So this, I cannot emphasize how strong the significance of this is, because what it means is that the volcano or the earthquake or the hurricane or the tornado is not an act of God, as it would be in legal contracts. You can get yourself out of a big problem by saying, oh, it was an act of God.
Right.
No, it's an act of us. It's an act of humans on Earth interfering with the Earth's own organism and its own blood flow. We're basically giving the Earth the earth an arterial blockage, which then causes a heart attack. And the heart attack is an earthquake or a volcano or a tornado or a hurricane. They don't have to happen, and they wouldn't happen, and the ancient legends that were given to us by these human ETs that they called the gods, who are not really gods, but they're just more advanced than we are, the human ETs told everyone, hey, the earth changes are your creation. If you don't want to have these problems, everybody needs to be in a harmonious state. And you look at the meditation effect. 7,000 people get together. They meditate under one roof. They create coherence in their mind. And then those waves of coherence ripple out into the source field, and they actually change people's behavior. They alter free will. People are 72% less likely to commit acts of violent terrorism during the time that those 7,000 people were meditating. So the effect of this on how we could live as a planet is vast, because thankfully one of the things it means is that it doesn't take everybody doing the right thing for the planet in order to get the results. It only takes a small number of people. Now I point you back to the Indonesian tsunami in the year 2004. It happened on December 26th. One of the aces I have up my sleeve is I worked on a suicide hotline. I was trained as a suicide intervention counselor. And one of the things that they tell you, because you have to know this for your job, is that the single greatest time for suicide is December 25th, Christmas Day. It's statistically the most likely time that people are going to commit suicide because of all the stress that they go through with having to see family and all that sort of family reunion stuff that is associated with it.
Yes.
Well, the Indonesian tsunami happened within less than a 24-hour orb of the greatest time for suicide in the year. So people were under stress, they were unhappy, and that actually created this arterial blockage which caused a massive tsunami that killed hundreds of thousands of innocent lives, innocent people. We have an effect. I want to make that clear. If you're in stress, if you're in anger, if you're in sorrow, if you're in fear, you're contributing to the problem. And you're also creating energy that these negative New World Order types need for their occult practices. So I see all these folks out there who are activists and they're anti-New World Order and they're anti-Illuminati, but they're doing fear.
Yes.
I call it fear porn. Because you encounter this fear and it gives you a rush just like looking at porno. And so the fear porn, there's all these people who think they're doing the right thing and they say, get mad, get out there on the streets, Bilderberg, Illuminati. You know, I'm not going to say who I'm imitating here, but you can probably figure that one out. Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg, Bilderberg. You gotta get out there, get angry. Your government is lying to you. Okay, we got it. But guess what? Once you get past the part where you're pissed off, let's start to tailor the source field to do what we need it to do, which is springboard us into a golden age.
Please. Yes.
I put this book out, and after, I had no idea that on the day I released the book, that there were going to be two very significant events in world history. Now, the source field, again, is an intelligence that's sculpting reality. That's what I'm saying is going on. We're actually dealing with consciousness. The earth is a conscious being. When we get upset, stressed out, frustrated, we create chaotic brain waves, which are actually creating literally like a static that's stopping this flow of current in the gravitational field from moving.
Yes.
A few people meditating get rid of that static and actually cause those spin fields to flow the way they need to. And then we don't have the earthquakes. We don't have the volcanoes. We can eliminate the earth changes by just being in harmony. And we're healing the earth. The earth is an organism, and we don't want to give it a heart attack. But that's what we've been doing. But it also is human consciousness. So these people are out there, and they're profiting off of fear, and they're actually using the fear energy to ensure their own survival. Because if enough people stopped being afraid of them, then they wouldn't be able to rule the planet. So we need awareness, but then we also need confidence. And people say, well, David is dangerously confident. He's way too confident, and he's lulling people into a false sense of security by making them think that if they sit at home and they're all blissed out, rubbing their nipples or rubbing their penis, everything's just going to be great. You should see the emails I get. I'm not making this up.
Oh, my God.
You know, and it is funny. It's ridiculous.
Well, it is ridiculous.
But what I'm saying is, look, you don't have to take my word for it. Challenge me on the data. Don't assault my character. You know, nobody's out there saying, well, Alexander Graham Bell is a big dick. No, we're using the telephone. That's what I'm using to talk to you right now. Nobody hates on Alexander Graham Bell because he built something useful. And we said, my God, let's just use this. So you can hate on me if you want to, but let's use it. Even if you want to hate on me, that's fine. But just in case I'm right, try not to let yourself get stressed out and fearful and angry. Just in case, you might actually be saving the earth by doing that. Listen to what I'm telling you. And if the source field is an intelligence that sculpts reality, isn't it interesting that on the day that the book came out, we had rebels overtake a dictatorship in Libya. They actually stormed Gaddafi's presidential palace, smashed all the icons.
Yeah.
And he's now in hiding, and he says, well, you know, you're going to have to kill me to make me stop, which they probably will.
Yeah.
He's about to be assassinated, most likely. But he certainly has lost power. That was the day that he got deposed. And on the very same day, we have the largest earthquake on the East Coast in a century, a 5.8. Everybody all over the place is feeling it. They felt it at the book publisher's office. In fact, my publisher was on the phone with my agent, and they're saying, well, I hope this book has longevity and that it's really going to reach people. And as they said that, there goes the earthquake. They're going, wow, okay, something's going on here.
Reached the entire eastern seaboard.
And it's waking people up. It's like, you know, if you're living in New York or you're living in Virginia or you're living in any of these states, you don't think about earthquakes. You don't think about earth changes. Oh, that's something that happens in California.
Right.
All of a sudden now people are like, ooh, wait a minute.
It's coming close to
Are
home.
we as healthy and as safe as we thought? Or, you know, we got this hurricane that's about to hit us, Hurricane Irene. We just got hit with an earthquake. What the hell is going on here?
Yes.
Isn't this part of that whole 2012 thing? Yes, it is. But it doesn't mean the Earth's going to be destroyed. It's the resistance that we are causing as the consciousness fields are increasing. The spin fields are getting stronger. And that means that when we interrupt them, it has bigger consequences because it creates more pressure, which creates bigger earthquakes and bigger hurricanes. So we're responsible for this. But the source field is orchestrating the whole thing. It's a perfect plan meant for human evolution to propel us into a higher echelon of what it means to be human, which again, as I argue convincingly in the book, is a galactic template. Human beings are all over the place. They're not just on Earth. Everybody's human because the source field makes life according to a prescribed pattern. Those humans have visited us. They were the gods. They built the pyramids. The pyramids are a technology that harnesses the source field into a spiraling current to stabilize the Earth. They were building this for their own safety, and they were building this also for the fact that the vortex it's created will create healing, and it can ultimately lead to portals that can travel you through space and time if you know how to use them, and you know when to use them. The pyramid's simply sitting there. It's not like you just walk in anytime you want. You time travel. You got to wait for the alignments.
Yes.
And I'm sure, as an astrologer, you must have been totally blown away by what I did with interplanetary geometry.
Oh, my God, David. Oh, yes. We have a few minutes left. Would you like to bottom line that for our listeners?
Well, you know from astrology studies that you're looking at things like a sextile,
yes,
which is 60 degrees,
yes,
or a square, which is 9 degrees, and that these aspects seem to have effects on consciousness, where the positions of the planets are. Well, now we find out that the locations of the planets in space are determined by geometry.
Yes.
And when you have an astronomical alignment or an astrology alignment, you're not just dealing with something that's only a consciousness effect. You're actually getting a source field portal that's created. And when those portals strike the Earth, especially on this global grid of geometric lines, you get a time tunnel that opens up. And the pyramid, what it does is it basically makes sure that that time tunnel appears in one location. By creating an attractive force, it creates a vortex Stonehenge or a place like that, you're going to be able to travel through time. So the source field is able to manipulate consciousness on Earth. It's able to get us to do things that are seemingly random but add up to significance. And that's why, as I said, the markets, the Dow on the second Monday of August 2011, the Dow went down by 6.66%, and the S&P went down by 5.55%, 666.
Yes.
Spur of the beast.
Yes.
That's actually the source field telling us, don't worry about the economy. We've got it under control. You're going through an initiation, but it's all going to be fine because the source field is in control. Then the day that I released the book, which could be the most significant written work of the modern era, I think it could well be that. And I think that makes me sound like an egomaniac. But you know, and people, when you read it, you're going to get it. You're going to get that this book, it's like somebody built the light bulb or somebody built the telephone. For God's sake, let's use it. Okay, so everybody's going to love having time travel, teleportation, anti-gravity, and free energy, and that's what this book is going to give us.
But the thing that I love, David, in the few minutes that we have left, is the love that emanates from you, the passion that emanates from you, and the uplifting, the hope that this, not the hope, the look into our future that you have given us.
Well, thank you. I mentioned the whole Pono thing that I put in there.
Oh,
it's so significant.
The very, very end, the last 4 sentences are, for those of you who've read up on Ho'oponopono, I'm sorry, forgive me, I love you, thank you. I got goosebumps when I read it.
I love you, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And the thing is, people don't do the I'm sorry part.
I know, they don't.
It's easy to do the I love you part, but what they're actually saying with that practice is that you take on other people's stuff as if it was your own. This guy, Dr. Hugh Len, actually cured people in a psychiatric ward by praying for them and saying, I am sorry, please forgive me for the fact that you're having these psychological problems. What? But that's what he did, and it worked.
It worked.
Because ultimately the source field is the idea that we're all one mind.
We are.
We're all doing this together. So our collective source field mind, on the day that the book comes out, we get this massive wake-up call on the East Coast, this massive earthquake, 5.8, and we get Gaddafi deposed, a major dictator who's been in power for over 2 decades, thrown out of power, people storm through, they collapse the dictatorship, and on the same darn day with the earthquake, the capstone, the pyramidion, on top of the Washington Monument cracks. Now, if that isn't significant, if that isn't a message from the source field, my God, how much more proof do you need?
And on
it was absolutely stunning.
It was stunning. And on that note, I hope that everyone within the sound of my voice is going to race out there and get the source field investigations. David Wilcock, thank you so much for the honor of interviewing you. I have had goosebumps the whole time.
It's my pleasure. It's a great asset to have someone who's actually read the book and knows what's in there, because that way I'm not just sounding like an egomaniac. People don't understand how much work has gone into this. It's my life's work. It's everything I've ever done in one volume.
It is your passion. It is your mission. And anything I can do to help you, just ask.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you for letting me on your show. And I'm
Anytime.
wonderful to hear that everybody's going to be able to download this and listen to it.
Absolutely. Listeners, till next time, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours.